Thank you. So, when we started our sessions, we set up a 5 day agenda that what is it we are going to discuss on the first 5 days. So, that is basically discussing about the basics of business analyst, introducing business analyst so that everyone can understand it. We are on day 5 today. Okay, and just let me swap this. Actually, this should be day 5 and this should be day 6. So today we are going to cover another basic topic, that is how the SDLC works. Okay, so basically, when you start working in IT industry, we are basically building softwares or products or features. Okay, now how that software is actually built up, what's the life cycle that it goes through. Okay, now once we understand that SDLC model, then we will talk about how a business analyst, will perform in each of those phases of SDLC. Okay, then tomorrow we are going to talk about the different types of requirements that are there and how do we capture it. So tomorrow, day 6 will be our first topic, a little bit advanced topic on what are the different types of requirements, how do you start capturing those requirements, or basically how do you identify those requirements, and then there will be an assignment associated with it. Okay, and tomorrow itself I'll let you know what is going to be our agenda for next 4 days. What is it that we are going to discuss over the next 4 days? If there is going to be any assignment associated with any particular topic that we are discussing, I'll also share the assignment details with you, like what is expected out of the assignment. And then once you submit your assignments, I'll review those assignments and give you guys any feedback if there's anything. But for now, before we get started, uh, do you guys have any questions with respect to what we have covered so far? Like, who is a business analyst, what they will do on a day to day basis, what are the different skill sets that are needed, how the role of BA was created in IT, how it has evolved over time, what is an IT industry, how do we perform the roles and responsibilities. And then in our previous class we went through some of the common terms, like what do we mean by a change request, a change management, development, deployment, environment, those type of things, SOW. So so far, any questions with respect to any of those?
No, Rahul.
Okay, sure. So let's get started. And like I said, yesterday's session was also to introduce IT industry to everyone, so that even non-IT people can understand it. Today's session, for people who have been part of IT industry, for them it may work as a refresher, but for people who are new to IT industry, it will be a good learning for them to understand how the industry actually operates in building a software. So I have created a simple flow chart for you guys to understand. Okay, so so far I have not listed down what happens exactly under each of these phases. So the idea is for you guys to be aware of what and how many phases are there and what comes sequentially. Okay, so once you guys are aware of it, and as and when you start your journey as business analyst, you will get more comfortable with these phases. But the initial idea is you should know how many phases are there and what each phase will actually help you do. So the first one is planning and analysis. So the entire work starts with planning and analysis. So what happens over here is you need to have some basic idea feasibility check. So let me open notes as well. Okay, so the first one is planning and analysis. Now suppose you have gotten an idea in your mind, like I want to create an e-commerce application. To create e-commerce application. Now this is an idea. So obviously you will not directly jump onto that idea. There has to be some type of feasibility check. How feasible that idea is. What is the implementation may not be very challenging, but what is it different that I am going to offer as opposed to what is already available by the competitors? So why will people basically use your software? So some type of analysis has to be done over here. So that is feasibility test or feasibility check. Okay. Now, if you think that whatever product I'm going to offer, that will be something different or that will offer something better than what is available, then obviously you want to move forward. Now, when you want to move forward, you just don't want to simply jump onto the work. The very first thing that IT people do is they need to plan their work. Okay, I'll give you a real life example. So, say for example, you want to go out to watch a movie. Okay, you have, what you will do, you will not simply hovering around and then decide that okay, I'll go and watch movie. What you will do is you will try to book tickets online. You want to save your time, so what you will do, you will check the availability of your favorite movie online. If the tickets are available, you have two options. Okay, one, you can book it online or go to the nearby multiplex and book ticket there. But first thing you want to do is you want to check the availability. You don't want to waste your time by simply going all the way to the multiplex and then getting to know that tickets are not available. That's complete waste of time. So similarly in IT also, before if you have done the feasibility test or check, and if you think this idea is really worth implementing, you don't simply jump onto it. You try to create a plan. Okay, plan in terms of like how much effort will it take? Okay, how many people are needed to do this work? And what type of skill set is needed? What type of skill set is required for these people? So that if you have to hire or train, you can accordingly do that. Then you assess training or rehiring as possibilities. That do I have sufficient people within my company whom I can train and get the staff ready, or do I have to hire more people from outside? Okay, then you will create a progress chart also. Progress chart, or basically what this is usually initially created on a monthly basis and then further elaborated for weekly basis. Okay, how your progress is going to be. Now remember one thing, uh, a business analyst will not have much of say over here. Okay, now people can ask you for inputs that okay, how much time will you do you think, how complex this project is in terms of requirement gathering, like have you worked on creation of an e-commerce application? So what are the different aspects that we should think of? How much of time do you think you as a business analyst will take? What were the challenges that you guys might have faced? So people can consult you. Okay, as a business analyst, people can consult you to get your opinion, but you will really not have much of involvement or much of say in the initial stages. It will be your project manager and client, or your SMEs and clients, that will be discussing on the feasibility of idea, and then involve a project manager to discuss on the planning aspect, that how are we going to implement this idea. Okay, now the next stage that comes is with respect to requirements gathering. Okay, we'll have a class again, in coming days, that is on day 6, yeah, before we cover types of requirements, where we will see how does IT industry gets its projects. Okay, how do you convince client, I mean not convince, but how do you get to know about the projects, how do you apply for those projects, and then once you get the project, that is when you start with your SDLC process. Okay, so that will be topic for tomorrow. Now next is requirements gathering. How do you start gathering requirements, or what happens in this next stage, that is stage 2? So first one was planning, you did some feasibility test. And remember guys, feasibility test or feasibility check is not about can you implement the idea or not. Okay, can you implement was already done. So can you implement this particular item was already assessed. So before it came to you, someone who thought about building an e-commerce application for as their business, they already had discussion with some IT company on can you implement, and then only it came to you. So in your planning and analysis, when you are doing feasibility test or feasibility check, you are basically trying to identify what technology could be needed here. Okay, you are trying to think about database, what database could be needed here, and that's why I said you want to involve SMEs or clients. Okay, so you are trying to identify whatever their ask is at a very high level. You are not bothered about requirements as of now, but what is it that the customer wants. So what technology needed, what could be your database design looks like. Okay, how feasible their ask is technically, how feasible their ask is technically. So that is all you are trying to assess or you are trying to analyze at this stage. You are not trying to analyze how good the idea is or how bad the idea is. The good or badness of the idea was already assessed, and based on that assessment there was already a contract. Remember we went through the term SOW, statement of work. So based on that, the SOW has already been signed between the organization, IT organization, and the customer. So now you are getting to start the work. And tomorrow we are going to go through how the SOWs are signed between the customers and the IT organization. Okay, how do you apply for work, and how do you then go on to sign on the SOWs? So that is the feasibility test or check you are doing. Business analyst can be consulted, but you don't have much of a say over here. You can be involved as an audience. You are observing things, what is happening. As and when needed, you are giving out your opinions, you are voicing your opinion, but you are not really driving anything as of now. Once we move on to the second stage, okay, so we have our plan ready. We have decided what we are going, when are we going to start our work. Okay, we have already decided when are we going to start, and then based on our estimate we have also agreed upon tentative end time. Okay, when are we going to end, basically when are we going to start our work, and tentative end time. So now based on this, the project manager will then ask the business analyst to start on their work. Okay, so when you start on your work, what is it now you will do? So you will also do some kind of analysis, that is business analysis, before you directly reach out to the customer that hey, what do you want. It is always good to go prepared. Okay, so you ask people like your project manager, SMEs, that hey, why don't you share some documents with me, whatever you guys have discussed so far, so that I can go through what the ask is, what the customer is, okay, from where they operate, those type of things. So that as part of my analysis, what I'll do is I'll try to understand their ask. I'll try to understand customers profile. Okay, I want to go prepared to the customer. I don't want to go to them and then start asking them question, and then they tell me that you don't even know anything about our business model, you don't even know anything about us as customer. What are you going to ask? Okay, and then you ask these irrelevant questions. So it is always good to go prepared. Okay, so when you look for these documents, okay, what the customer is asking, what the customer's profile looks like, what the competitors are doing currently, okay, how the competition looks like in the industry in which customer is going to work, competition in the industry. So now you are little bit prepared. Okay, so this is the general business analysis or preparedness or pre-customer interaction activity that you guys will do. Okay, so all you have to do is go through plenty of documents. Now, one of the skills that we remember, we mentioned you should have good learning skills and analytical skills. Okay, the idea or the intention is not to simply read the document. Anyone can read the document. Why specifically a business analyst? Because the intention is that when you are reading the document, you will remember most of it and you will try to analyze it. Okay. See, I have data. I can give you hundreds of thousands of people's data. Remember, Google used to initially share people's data directly with the organizations. Now, nowadays, you would have heard something called as targeted advertisement. Okay. So, what is the targeted advertisement or targeted advertisement is organizations came back to Google, Facebook, Apple, everyone, and then started complaining that you are giving me hundreds of customer data, but I am finding only one or two relevant out of it. So basically, 95%, 99% data is irrelevant to me. So now what they started doing is they already had customers data. They, as in Google and all those companies who are offering you products for free, they already had the data. They started doing some analysis on top of that data. That if who are the customers, for example, who are watching health related videos or browsing health related topics more often. So suppose tomorrow if you are going to start a gym and if you go to Google and say, hey, give me the data of people who will be more interested in coming to my gym. So what Google will do is they will try to identify out of the entire data that they have available, who are the people who are most likely to join a gym. Basically, people who are browsing something health related. So now what they do is out of the entire data that they have, they are doing some analysis. They are trying to identify who are browsing videos or general texts or websites which are health related. And then they will share only their data with the gym. That why don't you go and contact these people? They will be more relevant to you. So similarly, the ask is from you people also the same thing. Documents are there, anyone can read the documents, but what is it, the conclusion that you can make out of that document? Okay, so that is where if you understand customer's profile, what the customer wants, and what their ask is, you can give them better suggestions. Okay, so that is why not just go through the documents, analyze the documents. Does it make even any sense? Basically, do some kind of targeted advertisement as well. So that's why not everyone will just simply do it. Then once you do these things, then start with your customer interactions. Okay. So that is where you will use whatever tools your organization uses, like Teams app. If it is MS Office, let me write it down as MS Office, or any other relevant tool, whatever your organization uses, basically to conduct meetings to conduct meetings with customer, then to make notes out of those meetings, and to record meetings. Sometimes you also need to record meetings. Now, one of the asks that I'll have from you guys is that whenever you go through these recordings, not while going through the meeting itself, but whenever you go through these recordings, try to prepare notes of your own. Okay, these notes will help you when you start your work as a business analyst. That what was discussed, what was expected, who is supposed to take actions. Okay, I'll tell you a format also. Once we go through once we go through a video, I'll share one video in day after tomorrow's class, and then I'll also show you how to make notes. But till then, you guys continue to make notes in whatever way you are comfortable. Not during the class, not during the meetings, because this will have you distracted, but once you go through the recordings. So these will help you recollect things little faster. Then next is based on your interaction with customer, whatever notes you have prepared or whatever recordings you had, then you start writing down your requirements. Okay, writing down the requirements. So these are the aspects that we'll be mainly focusing on in our classes when we start with waterfall model and when we start with agile as well. How do you write down the requirements? Because the idea is basically to write down a requirement document, and once you have the requirement document, share that requirement document with the required stakeholders. Now next thing that comes up is design stage. I'll just quickly complete design stage, and then I'll stop to see if there are any questions. Now, what happens in design stage is you are basically trying to identify a solution. Okay. And based on this solution, you are going to create a high level design. I'll just quickly touch upon these two as well. Now, once we have the requirement document ready, we are going to take that requirement document. Okay, let me write down one more thing here. BA is the driver here. Okay, so you are the driver, you are the responsible person who is mainly going to do all those activities that are listed over here. Okay, you may have some roadblocks, some impediments on your way, but then you can always reach out to your customer to get information. Basically, what will be your roadblocks or what will be your impediments at this stage that you are not clear about a ask? You will go and ask your customer that I don't understand what you are trying to say. Can you repeat again? If you think that asking customer could make customer angry, you can ask your lead BA. Okay, so you can either ask customer to clarify doubts, or if you think it will make your customer more angry, then you can reach out to more senior people first. Okay, senior BAs first to clarify doubts that hey, I have this recording or I have this notes. Before asking customer, I thought I'll ask my seniors first, and if they can clarify my doubts. If they are also not able to clarify, then why don't we go ahead and ask the customer? Now, after doing all this, once you have the requirement document ready, we'll go on to the next part. We take the requirement document as input and try to identify a solution. Okay, this solution will be a simple. I think I have it over here? No. So solution is nothing but consider this as this activity diagram. Okay. So you try to have two parts of solution. One is conceptual solution, that is business flow. Conceptual solution, that is nothing but your business flow. Okay. How the business is going to work purely in terms of business, not in terms of technical data, Once you have your conceptual solution or business solution ready, then you add technical elements to it, or you create a technical solution. Now, technical solution talks more about, for planning and analysis, let's say I will use Microsoft of Microsoft Excel sheet. Let's say I'll have the list of candidates involved. I'll create chart over here. For requirements, I will use any proper requirement management software. It could be IBM Select Pro, or it could be Confluence offered by Atlassian. So I can go through any requirement management document. Then simple for design, I can use any Visio charts that are available. For build, I can use Java, Python, whatever be the technology and relevant tools. So first you try to identify a conceptual solution. Basically, you want to know how the business is going to work. That, for example, let me add for e-commerce example, say that customer will log in. Okay, when I'm trying to create a conceptual solution or a business flow, I'm not worried about how customer is going to log in, what elements customer will use, whether they will use their ID password, whether they will use phone number password, whether they will use phone number OTP. At this moment, I'm not worried about those things because that will be part of our technical solution. So customer login, then they search for the product. Okay, now once they search for the product, then the next activity they can do is they can review the details of the product, isn't it? That's what we do when we go for online shopping. We search for a product, then we review the details, like what is the price, and what are the features that we are going to get in the product. The next thing that we do is, if we are satisfied with all the details, like the price, the description of the product, then we add item to the cart. And let's say for now we'll stop at this point. Now once you create this conceptual flow or the business flow, that you as a business analyst can do, what you think of, what are the necessary steps that should be covered at this point. Okay, so this is how you think that the flow should go. First you should have the conceptual design in your own mind itself. Unless you have it in your unless you have idea about it, you are not going to uh, know how to create the software or how to implement the requirements. Now you can create it yourself, or you can take reviews from your senior people in the team or your architects as well, whether you have covered all the required steps or not. Now in design stage, your technical team or your architects. Now this is where the technical architects or the senior leads, okay, technical leads will get into picture, and they will try to create something like this. Okay, so they will say that customer can log in using phone and OTP. They'll try to have some of the technical features. Now let's say if they want to log in with OTP. Okay, so you can have an element like enter phone number, and we can create a system to generate OTP. You can add certain details to it, like OTP should be valid for let's say 5 minutes only. Similarly, what we also need to do is, how when can you request for it. Okay, suppose you already requested for it, Now sometimes if you observe, if you don't receive OTP, you don't immediately get the resend OTP button. The resend OTP button is disabled for certain time, okay, to account for any latencies or gaps. So now what you can do is, you can also say that customer should be able to ask for same OTP or resend OTP after let's say 30 seconds. That wait for 30 seconds. If customer doesn't receive OTP, then after 30 seconds they can ask to resend OTP. Now so how, now what you can do is, you can create a flow chart like this. In your OTP generation system, you added some of the technical details around it. OTP should be valid for only 5 minutes. Now you can also check one more thing over here is, basically the first check, that generate OTP only when the mobile number is registered. Okay, suppose if it is the first time you are trying to log in, then you should register your number first. Okay, so you can add some of these, not you, but the technical architects, they may add some of these details like this. So when the technical design gets created, they don't talk about how to write program, how to write flow, how many programs should be written. They talk in at a very high level, what are the different methods you can use. Suppose uh, phone number and OTP, then you create a system to generate OTP. When you are creating this software, what are the different things you should take into consideration. Similarly, they can also mention that when you are going to create another login method, like customer can log in using ID and password. Okay, so similarly they can add, they can mention like, we should create a different system for ID and password validation, and what are the checks that we need to do for that ID and password validation. So the first part is basically your, let me put it this one over here. Okay, so the first part above here is your actually conceptual design. Okay, so if you see in the first part, we never talked about how the technical solution will be implemented. So that is why I mentioned that you as business analyst can also create it, and it will be better if you guys insist on creating the conceptual design or the business flow, so that you can better understand the business. The next part over here is the below one, is your technical design. Now this is not a complete technical design. I just took one element of it and then tried to explain how this technical design is actually created. So that is the responsibility of architects. Okay, so business conceptual solution is a business flow that you as BA can take care of it. Technical solution is something that your technical architects slash lead developers can create. Okay, that depends on the organizations how they use, but usually for creating a new product, they will usually have a technical architect do it. So technical architect will then have something like this. Okay, so this makes more sense to our technical team, that what are the different elements that should be have. This gives an idea to everyone that what is it that I am going to implement. Okay, this is more relevant, the one that the part that I am highlighting, this is more relevant to customers to understand what the business flow is. This is also relevant to technical architects to understand how to design the system. Okay, so based on this flow, Then only they can design the system, that okay, how does the system interact with each other. So far, any questions, guys? Okay, I'll assume that there are no questions, so we'll move forward. So the next task is now build stage. Okay, and what happens in build now? So build stage is where you actually start writing the code for your software. Okay, so this is the stage where the code is written. But before you start writing onto any code, you need to create a design. Okay, so usually the design that is created over here is termed as low level design. Why it is called low level? Because this design talks about code. Okay, so this design will tell you how many, number one, how many programs will be there. So let's say, uh, going back to this solution, create a system to generate OTP. Okay. Now, as a developer, I can write 5 programs. One program for checking whether mobile number is registered or not. One program for generating OTP. One program for disabling the resend button and enabling it only after 30 seconds are done. Okay, so I can have 3 programs, or I can do all of this in one program itself. So that is where you guys will decide, you as in not BAs, but the developers will decide how many programs will be there to fulfill a given requirement, what each program is going to do, what each program will do. Okay, so that is why now it is that is why it is called as low level design. It talks at very ground level details of how many programs, what each program will do, what will be the input and output for program, what will be the input output for programs. So you will talk about these details. Okay, at in high level design, the one that we discussed over here, we are more bothered about the flow. Okay, we are saying create a system to generate OTP. We are not saying how many programs you should write. We are giving constraints of this system, that what this system should do. Okay, and we are giving these constraints in technical terms, not in business terms. So that is why the design that we create is termed as high level design. In build, we create low level design. Now, once you have your low level design ready, then you start coding. Okay. Once you do the coding, then you do what is called as unit testing. Okay. So since you guys will not be involved, but just understand that basically testing each program is called unit testing. Suppose you, like I said, for building this OTP generation system, you have developer has written 3 programs. So developer will test individually each program. Developer will test program 1, ensure that program 1 is not giving error. Then developer will test program 2, ensure it is not giving error. Then developer will test program 3, ensure it is not giving error. So unit testing is nothing but testing each program individually. Okay, testing each program individually. That completes your unit testing. Then we move on to the fifth stage, that is the testing stage, or basically this is where you will also hear people that they are doing quality assurance check. Okay, why it is called a testing stage? So see that when the developer created program, developer was testing the program individually. Okay, but usually when you create software, programs don't work independently or individually. One program will receive some input. So just let me create one more diagram over here. Okay. So what happens is you can write down program 1, program 1, and let me copy this 3 more times. Program 2, program 3. Okay, so what developer has done is developer has tested these 3 programs independently. They tested program 1, told there is no error, program 2 no error, program 3 no error. Now what they did not do is, that is not how the programs are going to work. When you generate OTP, okay, we are saying that check whether mobile number is registered. If mobile number is registered, then only you generate OTP. Now once you generate OTP, then you need to track from the time I generated OTP, I should add plus 5 minutes, and my OTP should be valid for 5 minutes. Okay. So basically, when this program generated OTP, program 1, it will send an output that what time it created OTP, and it will send the time details to program 2, isn't it? It will not, the output, that is the time at which OTP was created, will go as input to program 2. Now program 2 will ensure that that the OTP, if customer asks for this resend, and if it is still within 5 minutes time frame, then same OTP should be sent back. Okay, so that is why we take input from program 1, that is the time at which OTP was generated, and should go as input to program 2. Now you see, these programs are not working independently, they are dependent on each other. Similarly, your program 3, if someone clicks on resend button, it should go to program 2. Program 2 should check at what time the OTP was generated. If it is within the 5 minutes time frame, then resend the same OTP. If it is outside of 5 minutes window, then ask program 1 to create fresh OTP, new OTP. Okay, so these 3 programs, they are not working independently, but they are working together. Okay, one is sending in output to another, and the other is taking the output as input and trying to process it. So now you want to ensure that these 3 programs combined together are working correctly or not independently but combined. If I combine this, they should work correctly. That is why we have testing or quality assurance stage, where you will have testers who will do system testing. Okay, that is, they will ensure that if I have created an OTP generation system, that OTP generation system works correctly or not. So how they will test? They will first try to give a number that is not registered. Again, going in this example, they will try to give a number which is not registered for their testing. If the number is not registered, they should get a message back saying that first register your number. If their number is registered, then what should happen? It should generate OTP. Then they should ensure that for 30 seconds my resend OTP button should be disabled. So like that, they will do end-to-end testing. Okay, testers will not be bothered whether program 1 is generating OTP or program 2 is generating OTP or program 3. They are least bothered about it. What they are mainly bothered about is whether these 3 functionalities are getting executed when these 3 programs are combined or not. Okay, now you can have one program do all the tasks, you can have 2 programs do these 3 tasks, or you can have 3 programs for the 3 tasks. That is up to the developer. But as a tester, your main focus is not how many programs are there. Your main focus is whether these 3 functionalities are getting fulfilled or not. If these 3 functionalities are not getting fulfilled, or if there is any deviation, what testers will do is they will create defects. Okay, and then they will notify developers that, hey, I have found some defect in your code. Then developers will review the defect, will check what is the defect. Okay, and then they will try to fix it. Developers will know which program to fix in order to solve the defect. So they will fix the required program. And then once the program is fixed, then they will ask the tester to retest it, to test again. Okay. And then the tester will test again. If they don't find any defect, they will say all okay, no defect found this time. So that is what is quality assurance is. Developer was testing each program individually, but we don't want every program to work individually. We want combined, when all programs are combined together, whether they are working correctly or not. So that is why we have testing stage, in which testers will do this combined testing, system testing. They will ensure that when all programs are combined, these three functionalities are working correctly or not. If there is any deviation, if any of the functionality is not working correctly, what they will do, what testers will do, they will create defects. Okay, they will create defects. Developers will review those defects, will fix the defect, and then ask the tester to test again. If after fixing the defect, if it is all okay, tester will say all good, I don't see the defect now. Suppose if it is still not fixed and tester is still seeing the defect, what will happen? Testers will either all okay, or it will be, or they will tell, they as in testers will tell developer issue is still there, issue is still there. Okay, so go ahead and fix it. So this cycle continues unless the defect is fixed, or unless we reach to this all okay stage. Okay. Now once the tester has tested the application, that okay, this application together works well. Okay. Now if they have tested that this application together works well, then we move on to the next stage. That's the final stage where we are ready for deployment. That so far we have tested everything and all looks good my system. So here you can give your user a demo. Okay, so you can have user demo. That is, you can give your user. Let me open Chrome. Okay, and let's say search for Amazon. You open your website, and suppose you are trying to do a sign in feature. So you give your user a demo that see, this is how your website will look like, this is how your sign in option will be there. You click on sign in, you give your mobile number. Okay, and then you do continue. See, if you give any junk mobile number, it will directly tell you incorrect mobile number. If you give a valid mobile number, it will let you continue. So demo is nothing but you are trying to showcase your customer a positive case, a negative case, a positive where it works, a negative where you receive some error. Okay. So here itself they tell we cannot find an account with that mobile number. So this is what the demo is. If the user is happy with the demo, if user thinks that the website is working as per their expectation, they will give you a go ahead. If they think that the website is not working as per expectation, they can give you a, they can give you a, what you call as, they can give you feedback that I don't like this font, or I don't like this error message. This error message doesn't make any sense to me. Why don't you change the error message? Okay, so that's where your before development, or development usually has two parts. Okay, one is pre-deployment, where you give demo to the user, receive feedback. If there is any feedback, you work on that feedback, and then there is actual deployment part. Okay. Remember we talked about environments. We talked about a production environment. So in deployment, what happens is you move your code, whatever 10, 20, 50, 100 programs you have written, you move that codes to production environment. Okay. So when your code is moved to production environment, that is what is deployment. and now your software is ready for usage. Now one more step that comes in over here is actually your maintenance. Okay, you can consider maintenance as part of your software development life cycle or over and above it. So what maintenance typically means is, in maintenance you do two activities. One is bug fixing, and I'll give you explanation of both, and second is minor enhancements. But before we go on to maintenance, so far any questions guys with respect to these six phases that we covered so far? Okay, so I would assume silence has no questions. So and I'll move forward. And similarly, guys, when you also present your topics as BAs, or when you ask questions, or when you are looking for feedback, and if you see people not responding, you can always say to them, like, if you're already part of IT industry, good. If not, you can always tell them that silence means no more questions. So that way, you are, indirectly taking their approval of moving forward. Now what do I mean by bug fixing? Okay, so you see guys over here, when we were trying to build application, testers identified some defects. Okay, when they were testing the application. Now, not it's not generally the case that you will find all defects while testing itself. There will be some defects that will be identified once the product is deployed into production. Okay, once the code goes into production and regular public, general public, people like you and me start using that e-commerce application, that time we can identify defects. Okay, so whenever you identify defect, what happens? Suppose if you give a valid mobile number, okay, and still you get this error, incorrect phone number, what you do usually? You click on this need help button, that hey, my phone number is valid, why is it giving me this error? Okay, so then you select the appropriate option, or what you do is you try to contact the customer service. See here, you got the customer service number. So you try to call them and tell them that my number is valid. I have placed already orders with this number. Why am I getting sign-in issues now? So that is kind of production defect. So you can identify defects either during testing stage or once the code is actually moved to production environment. So that becomes your maintenance. So when you call customer care, or when you report a defect, you can even report it through emails also. So once these defect comes, you need to fix, you as in the development team needs to fix the defects. Okay, so what happens? What is bug fixing? So basically it is nothing but identification of defect in production environment. Okay, and whenever you identify a defect, this has gotten higher priority guys. So this has highest priority actually. If any defect is found in production environment, you will see people running behind you in fixing it. That you as business analyst, you quickly do the analysis and try to see what if it is relevant defect or not, and then ask your developer to fix it. Okay, why? Because there is an actual customer that is getting impacted. And usually what people like you and me do, if you don't fix my defect in 1 or 2 days, I will no longer do shopping on Amazon, I will switch over to Flipkart. Okay, so we don't want to since we are going to spend money, we don't want to spend money on a website that is taking too much time to fix our defects. So that is why, in order to prevent customers attrition, in order to retain customer, any defect that is found during production environment takes highest priority, and people are usually asked to fix it as soon as possible, like within 1 day, within 2 days, or within 3 days, depending on how critical or how severe the defect is. Now, in addition to defect fixes, you can also have minor enhancements. Okay, let's say someone says that add this great Indian festival finale days over here. Now, tomorrow a new festival can come up, or some, okay, that this great Indian festival is over. Now, remove this from here. Okay, remove this banner from here. So these would be considered as minor enhancements. So these are nothing but small changes that can be accomplished or done quickly. Okay, so these usually will not take time. So adding a banner over here and removing the banner over here will not take time, but this is not a defect. This is a change that a customer wants, that okay, I want to have a banner over here so that people can directly click on the banner and go to the website. Or now my this discount period is over, remove that banner from the main page. So these are considered as small enhancements. You are trying to enhance your product or change your product. So these all are considered as maintenance activities. Now for minor enhancements or minor changes, you don't need to go through all this. That what will be the requirement, what will be the design, what will be the build. You already know, it's a simple thing. Add this banner, remove this banner. Simple. So that's why these small enhancements or small changes and this defect fixing, they don't go through this entire stage that you plan for it, do requirement analysis and all those type of things. Okay, now we not only covered what are the different phases of SDLC, but in each phase we also covered what is expected out of the business analyst. Like in requirement gatherings, they are the main drivers. In planning and analysis, they are mainly into consultation mode. In design, they are responsible for creating the business flow or the conceptual solution, help solution, help ensure that technical solution gets created. Yeah, in build stage, BA doesn't have any responsibility. A BA is not a technical person, so they will not do the coding, but they will again be working as a consultant over here. Why consultant? Suppose if developer has any doubt questions with respect to requirements, so whom they are going to ask? A developer will definitely going to ask any requirement related question to BA. BA will have to resolve or clarify those doubts or questions. Similarly, in testing stage also, if tester has any doubts or questions, they are going to ask BA. BA will resolve. Now in addition to clarifying doubts, BA will also review the test plan. Okay, so a tester, before starting their testing, they will create a test plan, like what scenario I am going to test. BA will have to review what all scenarios tester has mentioned, whether those scenarios are correct or not. So first, review scenarios. Then once the testing is complete, then review the test results. Okay. So first you review the test plan to ensure that the tester is has covered most of the scenarios. In IT industry, the expectation is not to cover 100% of the scenarios. Covering 100% scenario may take more time. So the intention is to cover at least 80 to 90% of scenarios, so that we know most of the time our system will work correctly. So you ensure that the test plan is correct. Sorry guys. Then the second is, once the testing is complete, you review the test results for whatever was tested to ensure that test results are appropriate. Now BA here is responsible for demo. Okay, is responsible for giving demo to client. Okay, but they are not responsible for development, sorry, deployment. Moving code to production, we have a dedicated team for it. But what they are responsible for, once the deployment is complete, once the deployment is complete, then notify customers. Okay, that we are ready. The deployment is complete. Now you can test your product in production. Okay. Now this notification thing, that's a common thing with BA across all phases. When you are done with your requirement, you will notify customer that I'm done with requirement. Please review the requirement. If you think anything is missing, let me know. Similarly, design. When design is complete, you will, if customer is asking, you will share the design with customer. Similarly, build. If customer wants to know how much how much progress has been made, you can again share a notification. Testing, only if customer asks you. See, in build, in design, build, and testing, I'm telling you, only when customer asks you, you share the update. Okay. Otherwise, project managers are responsible for sharing timely updates with customers. But because you guys also interact with customer on a frequent basis, so if customer, instead of asking project manager, asks you, you should not say I'm not aware of it, I don't know. Why don't you ask project manager, this is not my responsibility. No, that should not happen. You should just have little bit of idea on what the progress is. You don't have to have in-depth knowledge, but on what the progress is. And if customer asks, only if customer asks, you share updates on these three agenda items. But for requirement gathering, because you are working, so if customer asks, you don't have to check with anyone, you yourself can provide update. But for these three, ensure that you attend your daily status meetings or stand-up meetings. Ensure that you are aware of what the progress is. Aware of, not tracking. Okay, you are not responsible for tracking the progress, but be aware of what the progress is. And if customer asks, share the relevant progress. Okay, so that concludes our topic for today. Before we wind up, again, final time, any questions? Okay, so if no questions, tomorrow, tomorrow I'll cover one more topic briefly. I just got a new topic while I was talking to you. So our agenda for day 6 will be talking about IT industry projects. Okay, that is, how do we get projects? Okay, so we'll go through some of the terms like RFP, that how do you file in proposals, then RFQ for quotations, and then we'll go on to finally signing SOW. Okay, so that you will get an idea of how we get the project, and then we will shift this to day 7. What are the different types of requirements? Okay, and once you get project, then we will discuss about team size, type of projects. Okay. So guys, if no more questions, we can conclude the session for today. We'll meet tomorrow at the same time and go through some of these topics. What is an how do we get project? What's the team size? What are the different type of projects that we can work on? And then we'll move on to day 7 with our actual requirements. So any thoughts before we end the call?
So Rahul, as a BA, do we also need to know the process flow of the application? Like for example, like some projects use .NET application, or some projects use SAP application, or a PeopleSoft application, or some different applications they use.
So what you need to know is, at a business level, see this document that we created. Okay, you need to know the business functionality. Suppose if it's a PeopleSoft application, or if it's a Oracle based application, any application, one, what that application is trying to do, two, how the application flow works. Okay, so in our subsequent days or in our coming days, we will go through activity diagram or activity charts. So usually good organizations, they will create these activity diagrams, and these activity diagrams will actually list out how the application works, not technically but business wise. Okay, so we will go through one example on the activity diagram, so that will give you actually an idea how the application works. So you don't have to know the technical parts, like which program will actually be responsible for accounting, which program is responsible for payments. You don't have to know that, but all you need to know is that yes, my application is capable of doing accounting and payments, and what are the scenarios in which we can process a payment, or which we can fail a payment. So if you know those criterias, any issues or any technical details, that you can always ask your developers to review those. Okay, so that we are getting this issue. One of the user has made let's say payment from their savings account. Their savings account has necessary balance also, still we failed the payment, which should have not been failed. Now you can ask your technical team to actually go and research about it, like why the payment failed, what was the exact reason behind failure. So those type of things you can ask your technical team to do, but you need to know at a very high level what your applications are capable of. It should not happen that people come and tell you that payment has failed. So you should not directly involve technical team. You should be able to do some groundwork, like, okay, tell me how much is the balance in your account, was there any internet connectivity issue or some other issue, that at business level. Okay, you will understand it this better when we go through the activity diagram topic. Once we cover the requirements gathering, then we will cover activity diagram and use case diagrams. So during those you will understand it better what I am trying to say.
Okay. So how do we fit in a well-established project? I mean, the project is running smooth, it's already in the production. So does that kind of projects also still need the BA?
Yes, so for maintenance activity,
Yeah.
like the one that we
So
discussed over
has
here.
yeah, you said that for any changes that are requested from the clients, those discussions need to be done by BA, right? In
Yes,
the maintenance
even
projects.
yes, even when customer says that it's a defect, you may still need a BA, someone to dispute with the customer. Suppose customer says that uh, I gave my mobile number and it is not coming as and it is giving me an error that no account found. Now suppose the customer is giving a wrong mobile number. Okay, now you as BA can go out and dispute. You don't want your developers to go out and talk to customers, because a developer may not have adequate skill set to talk to a customer diplomatically or in a more polite way. But as a BA, people expect you to convince your customer that hey, this is not a defect, whatever you are going to raise or whatever you raised, this is actually an enhancement for us. Suppose system was never designed to make online payment, system was only designed to make cash on delivery. Now customer creates a defect saying that you guys never implemented online payments, you guys implemented only digital payments. Now what happens? Our software is already in production. Now as a BA, you will go through your requirement documents, agreed upon emails, everything, and then you will try to convince customer that see, this is my requirement document, this is what the email chain is, and nowhere it says that we will implement online payments, it only says about cash on delivery. So whatever you raised as defect, it should not be a defect, it should be another enhancement. Now incorporating a digital payment or online payment will not be a small enhancement or minor, it will be a big enhancement. So we have to go through these stages again. So you try to convince customer that it is not a defect. So sometimes it's a straightforward defect that you just have to review as a business analyst that yes, this is a defect, we need to work on it. Sometimes what will happen is you as business analyst will identify, BA will identify and say that this is not a defect, and say this is not a defect, this is an enhancement. Then what you have to do is convince your customers that boss, this is not a defect, this is our requirement document, this is what we agreed upon, this has to be an enhancement. Now what type of enhancement, whether it should be a small enhancement or a major enhancement, that will be the next discussion. Okay, but for these two activities and these three, especially in first case you will not have lot of involvement. You just have to review whether it's a defect or not. If it is a defect, assign it to your developer to fix it. If it is not a defect, then you have to gather required or proof, that what are my requirement documents saying, if you have any email chains, and then go and talk to the customer in a more diplomatic way, trying to convince customers. Sometimes even if you show the customers the required documents, then also they are not convinced. Then what you do is you involve your senior management, that hey, customer has raised a defect, we showed them the necessary documents that it's not a defect, but customer is not agreeing to it. So can you, my manager, talks to customer's manager and convince them that this is not a defect, so that we can close it and they need to open enhancements. So you will have more work over here, reading, going through the documents, reading those documents, preparing notes and talking to customer. Then again you will have some work over here. Okay, so that's why in maintenance projects you will not have lot of BAs. Suppose in development projects, if 10 BAs are working, in maintenance related projects you may have only 2 3 BAs working. You may not have lot of BAs working on maintenance, but there will be.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Not all.
Sure, guys. So we'll meet tomorrow, and
Sure.
we will cover on this topic. How do we get projects till we sign SOW? And depending on the project, what the team size will be, and depending on the project, what will it be called? Whether we'll go through terms like small projects, medium projects, large projects. So when do you call a project small, medium versus large? For each, what will be the team size, and how do we get the projects? Okay, so talk to you guys tomorrow.